guys, how's it going? Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thanks so much for checking out another one of our videos. Today I wanted to do a short, just kind of vlog style video about something that we all face kind of the second we decide to get into music production, and that is how to choose the best DAW if you are a beginner. There's a ton of options on the market, and it can be incredibly daunting when you might not necessarily understand what the software does or how it works, or how to look for one that has all of the features that you want. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about a few of the most popular options and what kind of use cases they would be best for in the case of being a total newcomer to producing music. So I think the first thing that we want to talk about is, what is a DAW? Well, a DAW is a digital audio workstation. It's basically the software that we use to produce music. You can see open behind me here on my monitors is the DAW that I work in, which is called PreSonus Studio One. It is personally kind of my favorite choice out of everything that's on the market. And I'll tell you a little bit about it in a moment, but I don't think it would necessarily be the best choice for an absolute beginner. So in terms of beginner options that are out there that are really, really popular right now, the first and foremost one that comes to mind is GarageBand. GarageBand is an application that was created by Apple a number of years ago and has been available just kind of as a basic feature on a lot of basic Apple computers for many, many years. It's a wonderful option for beginners because it's extremely easy to use. Very easy to set up, very, very intuitive. However, there are two main problems with GarageBand. The first is that it only runs on Apple computers. So if you don't use a Mac, a MacBook or an iMac or whatever, you will not be able to use GarageBand. So that's going to eliminate a lot of users right there. The second issue with it is that it is somewhat limited in what it can do. It's definitely going to be able to get you started producing music, but once you kind of get to the point where you understand what everything does, some more advanced editing and kind of manipulation things that you would be able to do in other programs, GarageBand kind of locks you out of and asks you to upgrade to Apple's more fully fledged software, Logic. But again, GarageBand, if you do have an Apple computer and you're looking to do more basic stuff, it is an excellent starting point. It has all of the instruments, virtual instruments that you're going to want in terms of synthesizer sounds and keyboard sounds, drum sounds, stuff like that. It's all built into the software, extremely, extremely easy to use. So I can definitely recommend it if you are an Apple user and just getting your feet wet. For PC, there are a lot of other good beginner options, although there isn't really one that stands out as well as GarageBand. What most people default to is a piece of software called Audacity. Audacity is completely free to download from the internet, and it is a very good basic recording program. If your main goal is just recording a basic vocal, recording maybe some acoustic guitar, maybe you have a single microphone, and you just want to get down some basic ideas, Audacity is a great free recording program. However, the big drawback with Audacity is that it does not have any built-in sounds. So if you have a MIDI keyboard like what you see behind me, and you want to be able to get some synthesizer sounds or piano or something like that, Audacity does not have any of that built into it. It's really strictly a standalone recording program. It doesn't have any of those MIDI features or anything like that. So again, kind of depends on what you want to do with it. Another few very popular options would be Ableton Live and FL Studio. I know a lot of guys, when they start looking into music production, they will run across FL or Ableton and think that it's a good choice for beginners, especially with Ableton Lite, which is kind of the basic intro version of Ableton. It comes free, bundled with a lot of groove boxes and MIDI control surfaces and stuff like that. It comes as free software that's bundled with those products. So it's something that you might encounter as the first software that you have access to. The main thing that I would say about Ableton and FL, they have lots of great built-in sounds, but they don't really work like a traditional DAW does. They are more geared towards producing electronic music. So if you want to do rap beats or hip hop or any flavor of EDM, be it house or dubstep or whatever, they're going to be fantastic options for you. But if you are thinking that at some point you would like to start recording real instruments, or working with bands or anything like that, they're not quite as well set up for kind of our normal recording and mixing duties. So again, really is up to you in terms of what you're trying to do. Some other great options for PC would be Studio One, particularly Studio One Artist, which I believe is $50 from PreSonus. And that is another really great, it's about as close to GarageBand as you can get on a PC, in my opinion. It's a great option for beginners. It has lots of sounds that come bundled with it, and also gives you a lot of room to grow. It's pretty easy to step into and kind of just get started with creating, and again, have a lot of options in terms of built-in sounds that are included with the software. But then as you learn more about it and expand, you can upgrade to the full version of Studio One, which is what I use, which is an incredibly powerful solution that can do basically anything. You can produce any style of music in it, whether it's electronic, acoustic, doesn't matter. It has all the editing capabilities of Pro Tools and all the big fancy programs. Studio One is really a great piece of software. So that Studio One Artist version would be a good option for PC users. Another great company is Cubase. Cubase is very similar to Studio One in a lot of ways. It's a very powerful DAW when you use the full version. I believe Cubase does make a kind of light, quote-unquote, version that is very easy to step into as a beginner as well. That's going to be very, very similar to Studio One. I'm not super sure if it comes with a lot of built-in instruments, so you might want to research that ahead of time if that's something you're thinking you're going to need. But I do know that it's very easy to use and works very, very similarly to a lot of the other software that's out there. Now, in terms of more advanced programs, let's say you're somebody who has a little bit of experience, maybe you've been using GarageBand, or you've been using Studio One Artist or something like this, and you're familiar with how it works, and you want to take that next step into a bigger and more fully featured piece of software. My first recommendation, if you're an Apple user, if you have been using GarageBand, go for Logic. Logic is, as I said a moment ago, it's kind of the big brother to GarageBand, and it is a very full-featured DAW. It's even great for beginners if you're willing to spend the couple $100 that it costs to purchase the software. It has thousands and thousands of built-in sounds and drum kits and all kinds of really great creative tools. It's very easy to use, but you can take it as far as you want. You can do very, very advanced editing and all that kind of stuff, very advanced mixing and mastering. It's going to work for everything like that. On the PC side, I do use the full version of Studio One. It solves all my problems. We have several in-depth reviews and tutorials about Studio One and getting started with it on the Consordini channel, so definitely head over, hit that subscribe button, and check out some of those videos if you would like to know more about Studio One. But suffice to say, it is an incredibly full-featured DAW platform that can do basically anything you need it to do, whether you're producing electronic music or just whatever. It can do anything. It really is quite incredible. Now, elephant in the room, I suppose, would be Pro Tools. I have not mentioned Pro Tools up to this point. Pro Tools is a tricky piece of software. I personally hate Pro Tools, if I'm being totally candid here. Most large studios in the world run on Pro Tools because it is an extremely technical program. It can do arguably the most of any of these programs in terms of really intensive editing and analysis and all of this kind of stuff. However, I really do not recommend Pro Tools for a beginner. It's very, very complicated. You really have to know what you're doing in terms of routing and all of these kinds of technical things in order to really get it to work right. There's a lot of menu diving involved in Pro Tools, that is, to get it to do what you want it to do. There's so many options and it can do so much. It's a little bit overwhelming. So I would strongly recommend staying away from Pro Tools until you are at a level where you're super, super comfortable with all different kinds of audio tasks, and you know that this is something that you want to invest some real time and money into. Then I would maybe take a look at Pro Tools and see what the workflow is like, because it works a little bit differently than a lot of these other DAWs do as well. So yeah, Pro Tools is a tricky one, and I cannot in good conscience recommend it for beginners. There are absolutely some other pieces of software out there. I know Reaper is very popular with some different folks, and I'm sure there's some other ones that I'm forgetting to mention. I don't have a ton of experience in Reaper or any of those other pieces of software, so I am not going to include them in this video. I can just pretty much say, if you're an absolute beginner on a Mac, go with GarageBand. If you're an absolute beginner on a PC, depending on what you need to do, Ableton Lite is a great option if you want to do electronic stuff. Audacity is a great option if all you need to do is record audio. And Studio One Artist is a great option if you kind of want an all-around experience and want to experiment with a lot of different things. And then from there, on Mac, you can move up into Logic. And on PC, you can move up into the full version of Ableton for electronic stuff, or FL Studio for electronic stuff, or you can move into something like Studio One or the full version of Cubase for a more all-around DAW experience. But that is, of course, just my opinion. I would love to hear you guys' recommendations down in the comments, especially if you are a beginning engineer or producer right now and you've just gotten software and you really, really like it. Please share with us down in the comments, and so that other viewers can learn as well what you like about your current software or what you don't like. Or, if you've had a bad experience with a particular piece of software, do stick that in the comments down below. I would love to hear whatever your experience has been. But in any case, again, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. I hope you found it helpful and informative. Please smash that like button, destroy that subscribe button, and gently tap the notification bell to make sure that you can stay updated with the channel. And as always, we will see you in the next video.